There's a lot happening all at once. But yeah, important stuff. Let's get important stuff out the way. First things first, free North Korea, guys. Free the North Koreans. I hope that that nation gets the justice it deserves for its people to have freedom, And I was just thinking about something so simple, right? That, like, the cause of evil in the world, and the cause of all these bad things, the cause of everything, like, that's so crazy, and that God didn't design that way, is because of human free will, and it's also understanding that God, the Almighty God, who's in charge of the whole universe, and existence as a whole, right? He chose that, what? This creation I'm making, as much as the free will is going to bring a lot of evil into the world, is going to bring a lot of distraction into the world, is going to take these people away from my purpose for their lives, but I'm still going to do it, right? So if God Himself, knowing the evil of a heart, like, knowing all this, knowing that, what, like, humans can do the most heinous things ever once given the free will too. But He's like, what? Because I choose to make creation that will choose to love me or not love me. I choose to make creation that will have the choice of how they want to live their lives, of whatever. It's okay, right? So if a dictatorship like North Korea, because the reason I thought of that, I was thinking of crime. Crime in SA is going crazy, guys. It's crime all over the world, I know, but crime in SA is going crazy. So I was just thinking about it, like, how could we limit crime or even kill it completely? And the conclusion I came up to was, it's impossible without contradiction. It's impossible to remove crime completely without contradicting God's purpose for our lives, right? So we can do it. We can get rid of crime 100%, but it's going to be at the cost of God's purpose for humanity and creation, which is not this little thing called laws that we're supposed to abide by, laws of a country, laws of this, that. They are very small in the spectrum of God's will for humanity, right? So if we're going to abandon God's will for creation for this little thing that is like a societal construct of how we should be, kind of thing, you feel? Or how we should govern ourselves, rather. If we're going to take that and replace that, it's not gonna work, right? So I thought about them, like, which country has absolutely no crime? North Korea, right? I don't believe they have absolutely no crime, because obviously they have cyber criminals, they have dark web, they have a lot of crime. There's a lot of crime happening in North Korea, hey? But we're speaking of just like simple crimes like robbery, like armed robbery, like theft, things that, like, we are bound to, like, come across in our day-to-day life. And, like, those more common types of crimes, those are the ones I'm talking about. Like, how can we make sure that they don't exist without taking away people's free will, right? Because yes, we understand, look, it goes back to that whole thing of playing God, right? That who are you to decide what is right? Who are you to play God in this circumstance or situation? It goes back to that. But the gist of it is that if God, understanding that you guys with free will are going to rape children, are going to murder children and women and murder each other, are going to steal from each other, are going to manipulate each other into crazy scenarios, are going to sell each other into slavery, sell each other into, you guys are going to be evil towards each other. You guys are going to destroy each other. You guys are going to do the worst things to each other, because I assure you, the worst thing that has been done to a human is most likely from another human. That's the crazy part. It's like your traumatic experience is a result of a human responsibility of that crisis or that situation, right? So basically, what I'm saying is a human is responsible for your biggest trauma, most likely, right? Because we gotta give the benefit of the doubt for those one or two things, natural disasters, whatever, which are very slim to none. Because most of the time, our biggest traumas started from people. It's people who made a circumstance that put you in there's always those dynamics. So God understanding that people will be harmful to other people with this thing that we have called free will, but understanding that people will not be people if they don't have free will, God is just like, okay, let's give them the free will. So now when you take away the free will, it's like people don't steal because they don't want to steal, or because they know not to steal, or because they believe it's not right to steal. No, people won't steal because they know the punishment, right? So now the problem is, right, once we program people into following a system because of the repercussions and not because they really want to or it's within them to follow it, then it becomes a problem when the system gets changed, because now the repercussion is not as much. The person has no reason to actually continue abiding, right? So it's like this whole thing of you cannot change the laws enough, you cannot change the rules enough for everyone to follow them. But the best way you can get them to follow the rules is by changing the people, right? So instead of changing the laws and changing this and changing that, it's changing the people's perspective towards the law, right? Because people will always find loopholes to laws. People will always find a way around laws. People will always find something. As to when you made a law, people will find there's always something, right? So it's just understanding that the true transformation begins from within. So if you really, really want to change people, if you want to change society, if you want to change a nation, you cannot change the surroundings or the outside, right? Or the construct of how you have to live. Okay, no more driving on the left hand side, you're going to drive on the right hand side of the road. That will make no difference, right? If you do not change the people, right? So the people are supposed to, that's why there's this whole thing of like changing someone while they're still young, because they're still fresh, and it's understanding that change, especially internal change, is hard. When you are given the responsibility of being an adult who's an individual on their own, who's responsible for their own decisions, responsible for their own thoughts, once you become fully responsible for yourself, it gets tricky, right? Because things no longer go from objective, they become subjective, because it's no longer you have to abide by this, but now you have a choice, right? And once you have a choice, things get a bit tricky, because now it depends on where your morals are, where your values are, what your upbringing has been, what your environment is like, what your mindset is like, where your mindset is at. That's why you can see people who grow up in gangster neighborhoods and around thugs, killers, this, that, then they don't become that, because it's not about just where you come from or how you grew up. Of course, it's going to have an impact on your life and your view of the world. Don't get me wrong. Of course, when you grow up in such an environment, it's going to condition you to a certain type of person, to be a certain type of person, right? But that doesn't mean that now that because of your circumstance, you should continue to just let it live on through you. No, we have the mindset. Once you have the mindset to be above your circumstance, then you can change it, right? But that's besides the point. Listen, I was saying that to say this: free North Korea. Them people deserve free will, right? If God gave us as humanity free will, knowing would mess up the world, I believe it's only fair for the North Korean people to give North Koreans freedom, even if it's going to destroy them or whatever. But hey, man, you can't keep oppressing people. But one day, the revolution will begin. And one day, a lot will happen. I can't wait for that day, honestly. Can't wait for that day when I come to you and be like, yes, North Korea, they're rising. Yeah, but it's gonna be hard. It's gonna take a long time. Hopefully not. But the revolution is going to happen. The revolution is going to happen. Also, I saw a news clip